Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to do two Gnome holiday decor pieces, but you could do the same techniques and do it on an art journal page or a canvas. So I'll be using the same napkin for both. It's called Gnome for Christmas. This is the 5 by 5 size, but it also comes in a 6.5 by 6.5. So I'm just going to spray some water on my finger, tap on the corner, and that will help lift the one ply. Then I'm doing the same thing again. This I find even works better than the tape trick. So if you have trouble removing those excess layers, give that a try. I just love this napkin, and this size is so perfect, and I can think of so many ways of using it. That's why I've put two into this video. So I am water cutting the image out. I love the text and I love the napkin as it is. It can be just decoupaged onto a 6 by 6 panel and just used as is, easy peasy, but I'm going to do a little bit more. I am saving the text to use on something else, because I have lots of Gnome napkins, and I'll link to that. So I am going to use a sentiment from my Oh Gnome You Didn't sentiment pack that's available at NinnysNapkins, and you can go there to check it out. And I picked the one hanging with my gnomies. This is going on a door hanger. So I thought that was kind of cute. Now I'm going to glue it down, and I've chosen to put the focal image near the top and the sentiment at the bottom. I tried it both ways, and I think this looks best. I'm gluing it down with fluid matte medium. That's my preferred adhesive when it comes to napkins. And my napkin ripped, but no worries, you can just piece it together when you glue it down. So now I want to paint the top half and the bottom half. And the top I'm going to go with Prussian blue and white. Now this door hanger was actually one that I got at Michael's. It actually had something on it. It was a paint kit for kids. And I've given it several coats of gesso to get rid of what was there. And the other side I've painted just black to prepare it for whatever I decide to do with them. So I'm just painting in this dark blue, and I find, I'm liking how the darker blue is really setting off the gnome focal image. I glued the napkin down first because it was white, and that was going to keep all the colors of the gnomes true to color. I find using an angle brush sometimes works better, gives me the ability to get into some of those nooks and crannies, but you'll see me switching out. Here I'm using a liner brush because I'm getting into some of the fine areas. And now I want to paint the bottom half, and I'm coming in, I've got still some of that Prussian blue there, and I'm mixing it with white. This is going to be snow. These are snow gnomes. Now, if I wasn't putting a sentiment on the bottom, I may have done some of the white using modeling paste and really build up that texture, kind of fake snowish kind of thing. But I'm putting a sentiment on there, so I didn't want it. But I did want some texture, so I'm using my stencil brush here and just tapping in it. And this is giving me a very slight bit of texture, and that's adding interest to this door hanger. And the white on the bottom and the dark on the top really make the colors pop. but I want to pop them even more. So I'm taking some acrylic paint and I'm going to be over painting the napkin. I'm brightening the colors because they're a little bit more muted, especially when I put the dark blue at the top, and I want them to stand out, and I want it to look like maybe I've painted it. So again, you're going to see me switching up brushes, using whatever size brush gives me the best control. Now, the napkin straight up as it was without colorizing it was good enough. So if you're not, you're a little too nervous to overpaint, you think you're going to wreck it, you can just leave it as it is. It is a beautiful, beautiful napkin. And here I'm colorizing the trees. And I've mixed a little bit of Prussian blue in with, I believe it's my hooker's green. This napkin, the 5-inch one, would be perfect on a 4x4 coaster. It would go well on some galvanized metal buckets if you want 5x5 cards. Just a whole lot of variety and options with this napkin. So you might want to pick up more than just the 2 that you can get at NinnysNapkins.com. There is an affiliate link to Ninny's in the description box, and there is a coupon code as well. Now I'm adding white, and here I'm getting, it's thicker paint. I want it to glob, so I'm building up the texture of the beards and the white elements on the napkin. Just FYI, the second project, I colorize them differently and I'm using different techniques, so it is worth your while to watch both of them. And as I said, the same techniques can be used on a card, large or small art journal page as well. So if you scroll back and re-watch the beginning, you can see the difference colorizing the napkin does, and make a decision about whether that's something you want to do or not. Just adding some shadows in. That was in the original napkin, so a lot of times I follow what that artist has given, where the shadows are, where the highlights are. And you can look at the leftover parts of the napkin. And now I'm doing some shading, and this is just further bringing out the focal image and making it look like I've painted it. I'm going to edge around this door hanger. I didn't do around the circle part because I didn't want to draw attention to that circle part. And now I'm adding some white highlights to the trees. They're very dark, they didn't stand out against the dark blue, so adding the white highlights makes them stand out. Decided to use the Prussian blue to edge on the bottom part for the snow part. I think that ties everything together nicely. But before I glue that down, I'm going to do some splattering with the blue. So here I'm just adding water to the Prussian blue and splattering just low. I really don't want to get it on the gnomes themselves. To prevent that, you could just put a Post-it note on it, or make a little bit of a mask. And now I'm just gluing down the sentiment. Now I print out the sentiments. I do have a laser printer, and they are just printed on plain copy paper. I want to add a little bit of bling and a little bit of a border to the bottom, so I have this knitted stitch stencil from the Crafters Workshop that I love. And I could use the red stencil butter, but I'm going to use the foil transfers and this tacky when dry medium. So it goes on cloudy, and once it dries, it is clear. It is an amazing product when you use it with the foils. I love the shine of the foils. It's way shinier than you can get with the stencil butter, which is why I'm using it here. The only downside is you have to wait for it to dry. Decided to splatter the top part with gold, and I like the detail that brings. Just kind of breaks up the background and adds. And while that tacky when dry medium is still drying, I'm using my Sakura glaze pen and outlining my sentiment. I use it instead of the Posca pen here because it's finer lined and I don't want it to be too thick. This also is glossy and slightly dimensional. So once it's completely dry and clear, it's hard to tell on the white background, I'm going to use this foil transfer sheet. I believe it's called, this is the crimson color. And that you just rub it on and then lift it off. Now, if there's parts that are missing, you can just keep going back and pressing on there. As long as it's tacky, it'll take more, and you can get a pretty good coverage. So this just added a little bit of bling to the door hanger. Love that shine. And there is the door hanger on the door. There are other pictures at the end. So let's get going on the second one. Now I have this easel, and I'll put the link to this video. This is a mixed media board from the Crafters Workshop. It was a 12 by 12 board, and I've cut it to fit inside this easel. So this is a rotational easel. I can swap out the seasonal art each time, and I'm going to use that napkin and this layered snow globe stencil from the Crafters Workshop. I'm going to put the gnomes into this snow globe. So this snow globe will work with a lot of the 5 by 5 napkins, a lot of the pocket tissues, the scale of that, and some of the other napkins. So it's something that you can play around with whatever holiday napkin you have. What do you want to capture? So what I'm doing here is I am simply tracing, using the stencil to trace that circle around my chosen focal image. And once again, I'm going to save the sentiment and just cut out that circle. Now I want to position it onto my substrate. I've gessoed the substrate, and that's important for the technique that I'm going to be doing later. And then I'm going to use the layered ornaments one for the garland on top and bottom. Gluing it down with the fluid matte medium. and making sure there's a good coat on top. That helps when you colorize it. If you make a mistake, you can wipe it off. Now I'm masking off the center lines that are on the snow globe. I'm not sure at this point if I'm going to use them. I end up not putting them back on. I liked it without that. I colorized the background before I used that stencil, and that footage was lost. I apologize, but all I did was took some Naples yellow and white gesso, blotched it on, and then I put the saran wrap on and scrunched it up, and this gives kind of that crinkled look and interest to the background. I'm edging the paper, then I'm putting that stencil back on, and I'm taping it down so it doesn't move. Just lining it up the best I can, and I'm going to use black modeling paste. I put it on a key card and put it through, and I should have been a little bit more careful, and you're going to see why, and then you're going to see how I fix it. I got a little bit of black where I didn't need it. Now I should have let it dry and then scraped it off. That wouldn't have smudged, but I didn't. So I'm scraping it off. I make a bigger mess and a bigger mess. But I'm not too worried. Simply, you need to get as much off as you can. I end up taking a rag and really rubbing it off, like here. It gets worse before it gets better, and then I did it on the other parts. Then I'm going to come in with some gesso and the Naples yellow, and cover it up. Little extra work, but wasn't the end of the world. Then I bring the saran wrap in because I still want that texture. I don't want these parts to look flat. So I just keep doing it till it looks seamless and you can't tell that I had this mess. So now I'm taping down this layered ornament stencil. And this time I'm using the white modeling paste from the Crafter's Workshop and just putting it again through the stencil with the key card. And I'm going to do some at the top and some at the bottom. Now my intent right now was to come in and colorize this green, but I don't do that. So even though you have an idea in your head of where you think it's going to go, be open to changing it. So again, you could do this exact same thing. It would look great on a card. It would look great on a 5x7 canvas panel. Now, instead of using paints, I am using my Inktense blocks. Inktense blocks are ink, and then they are permanent when they are dry. And since I plan on varnishing this, I don't want it to smudge afterwards. So I'm simply taking water, rubbing it on the block, and painting, giving it a wash of color. It gives a slightly different effect than what I did with the first project. The important thing here is with both of those, the acrylic paint and the Inktense blocks, both are permanent. And if it's a home decor item, I know I'm going to be varnishing it. I don't want that to smudge and move. So using watercolor would not be a good choice if you were going to do that. But if you were putting it on a card and it wasn't going to get varnished, you could definitely use watercolor. So I'm still using my Inktense blocks, and I'm going to paint the base brown. And I'm using a variety of browns. I always find that gives a lot of interest. What I should have done here is, because that garland is going overlapping, the evergreen garland at the bottom, I should have painted this brown before I put the modeling paste on. So learn from my mistake. Well, they say by the time you're done something, you always know how to do it. So the black modeling paste kind of got dulled down because I got some of that Inktense block. So I'm putting the stencil back on using the Ranger blending foam and just covering it with black paint just to make that black a little more prominent. That's me being picky. Now I'm taking some yellow oxide and rubbing it over the textured areas. Remember I said thought I was going to paint it green, and I decided no, I'm going to leave the color, just the gnomes, and I'm just rubbing the Naples or the yellow oxide over top, and it's bringing out the texture and making that garland stand out, but it's not in your face. It's not overpowering anything. Then I come back in with a little bit of brown just to bring it out a little bit more, and that ties in with the brown in the base. And I'm edging it with brown as well because I want everything to work together. And then I'm coming in with some black. And that layeredness, I just love how the black, it just made this work. And then I'm just very lightly putting very little black onto the textured area. I'm using a stylus and daubing in some thick paint, so it's like little holly berries in there just to add a little bit of red. But now when you use the stylus to put paint, it's fairly thick, so you're going to have to allot some drying time. So out of one napkin, you can make 4 cards like this. Now I'm just adding the white in. I hadn't done the white, so now I'm just going to add that. And I opt to use my thickened gesso. You can buy thick gesso, and I often put that through stencils and have lots of uses for that. I just wanted this to kind of stand out, so on top of everything else. It just lightens and brightens and adds texture as well. So I'm going to cover up the focal image because now I am going to splatter. And I'm splattering, I believe, with brown here. And then I splatter with a little bit of gold, which is more subtle. But I did not want to get this on the focal image, and it wouldn't be because the snow globe, the gnomes are inside, right? So once that's dry, I'm going to use this Liquitex gloss varnish, and I'm going to apply it liberally because I want it to be shiny. Remember, it's a snow globe. I do come in after this dries and I put another coat of it. It goes on kind of cloudy and it dries clear. So here's why I use the Inktense blocks. There's no smudging. I chose not to put a sentiment on, but you could. And there I'm going to just pop it into the easel, and it's ready to be out with all the rest of my holiday decor. I hope you like these projects. Which one do you like best? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you get notified of upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.